Does having high and growing GDP to debt ratio threaten the dollar as a world reserve currency? So first of all, the debt GDP ratio is declining. It's not rising. And that's because GDP growth is growing. And we're having fairly decent growth right now in the economy. But even if it was growing, it doesn't threaten the reserve currency of the world because from a debt perspective and an economic growth perspective, the U.S. is still the strongest country in the world. Again, the U.S. dollar is the de facto reserve currency and will be that way for a very long time because there's no other currency you can go to. It's about depth of liquidity. It's about military strength. It's about economic stability. It's about the rule of law, which is missing in every other country. So there is no threat to the dominance of the U.S. dollar right now. Now, 40 years ago, the dollar was about 60% of all trade globally. Today, it's about 53%. And that's because China has grown as an economy and they've become a much larger power globally. The yuan has become a larger share of transactions, but it's only about 10% of global transactions. And there's just really no alternative. So all these stories and narratives about the death of the dollar and the dollar debasement, and all of it's not true. These people that are promoting these myths of the decline of the dollar and everything else, there's not a factual basis to most of their arguments. It's just them trying to promote fear to get you to buy gold for whatever reason. This is one of the big problems with this whole argument. Purchasing power of the US dollar. This is the whole narrative to the story. The decline of the purchasing power of the dollar has just been terrible. And you can see, right, there's the chart. So back in 1913, the dollar bought $1 worth of stuff. Today, it buys about 10 cents worth of stuff. Clearly, the dollar's dying. No, this is a chart crime of massive proportions. What this assumes, and this is what they don't tell you, this is the story, right? See, oh, you've lost all this purchasing power in the dollar. Yes, you have. If in 1913, you took all your dollars and stuck them in a jar and stuck them underneath your mattress. Yes, if you pulled those $1,000 out of your mattress from 1913 to present and went to go spend them, they're not going to buy you what they bought back in 1913. Why? Because of inflation. There you go. You have inflation. This rampant inflation has caused the death of the dollar. No, that's not true either. If the dollar today bought what it bought back in 1913, you would not be enjoying the lifestyle that you live today because that erosion of the dollar is a function of economic growth. If you didn't have a declination in the dollar, you would have had no economic growth since 1913. In other words, we'd all be running around in Model Ts and trying to figure out how to get our corn to market. You only have inflation when you have economic growth. This is what they don't tell you.
Catch me daily on The Real Investment Show. The link is in the description.